Hello, hello, hello. I hope you enjoy. Chapter 12. The Theory of Everything. "Wake up, my lad," came the voice of Dr. Avery from behind the veil of blackness. "The time has come for you to join the land of the living." Derek opened his eyes. Dr. Avery's face hovered over him, going in and out of focus. Avery's expression was as neutral as his tone had been sardonic. Derek sensed they were both calculated. The constant light burning in through the doctor's eyes was under control only with effort. "What happened to me?" Derek asked hoarsely. "What did you do to me?" "The hunter robots knocked out you and your friends with a dose of nerve gas. The effects were temporary, I assure you, and there'll be no after effects. I had to assure the hunters of that, too, just as I had to convince them that you three would be more safely moved through the narrow corridors if you were unconscious. You see, I know these robots and can justify much to them that you would never dream of." "Where are my friends?" Avery shrugged. "They're around." He must have thought better of that answer, because he then said, and not unkindly, "They're here in the lab. You can't see them because your vision hasn't cleared. Where's Mandelbrot? You haven't dismantled him, have you?" Avery solemnly shook his head. "No, that would have been a waste of some fine workmanship. You're quite a roboticist, young man." "I suppose I should be flattered." "I suppose you should be, too." Derek closed his eyes in an effort to obtain a better idea of his bearings. He knew he was lying down, but his position was definitely not horizontal. The problem was, he couldn't tell as yet if his head was tipped up or not. Closing his eyes, however, turned out only to make matters worse. He felt like he'd been strapped to a spinning wheel of fortune. He tried to move. "I want to stand up," he said. "Untie me." "Strictly speaking, you're not tied down. You're being held down by magnetized bars at your wrists and ankles." Avery held up a portable device of a keyboard. "This will demagnetize the bars, releasing you, but only I know the code." Derek felt ridiculously helpless. "Can you turn down the lights at least? They're hurting my eyes." "I know. I really shouldn't care," said Avery, looking away. "Canate!" he called out, and the glare diminished. It was immediately easier for Derek to see. The light grid was several meters above his head. He glanced to his right to see Ariel still sleeping on a slab, held down by magnetized bars. Beyond her was a battery of computers and laboratory equipment, and various robotic spare parts, not to mention a compliant Canute dutifully overseeing a chemical experiment of some kind. On Derek's left, Woolruff lay face down on a slab, also out cold. Her tongue hung limply from her mouth. A closed-down Mandelbrot stood nearby against the wall, looking like a statue. An eerie statue that Derek half expected to come to life at any moment. Indeed, he thought about ordering Mandelbrot to awaken, but he was too afraid Avery had already planned for that contingency. In any case, he did not wish to see his friend again suffer from the feedback Avery had brought on with his electronic disruptor. "Thanks for turning down the lights," said Derek. "Are my friends well?" "As well as they were. I really must compliment you, young man. You're really quite resourceful." "What do you mean?" "Even when you were unconscious you were able to resist my truth serums. You babbled incessantly, but I got little information of any value out of you." "Maybe that's because I've none to give. I didn't ask to be stranded here, if you remember." "I shall strive to keep that in mind," said Avery wearily. He sighed as if near exhaustion. Derek certainly hoped that was the case. Now that would be something he could turn to his advantage. "Did you find out anything about my identity while I was out?" he asked. "I was not concerned with your personal matters. I merely wished to know how you had sabotaged the character of my robots." Derek could not resist laughing. "I've done nothing to your robots or to your city, unless you count saving it from a programming flaw. Any mistakes in your design are your own, Doctor." "I don't make mistakes." "No, you're simply not used to making them. But you can make 'em all right. If nothing else, you accomplished more than you intended. Your metacells are capable of duplicating protein organizational functions on a scale unprecedented in the study of artificial life forms. The interaction between the constant shifts of the city and the logic system of the posteronic brain seems to liberate the robot's brain from its preconceived conceptions of its obligations. And if what's happening to Mandelbrot's mind is any indication, the end results are infectious. I doubt it. Maybe your robot is just stewed from incompatibility with the city's meta-lubricant. You're gasping at neutrons, said Derek, futilely trying to kick off the bars over his feet and succeeding only in twitching his toes. Isn't it more reasonable to assume that the environmental stress of this replication crisis, caused by a bug in your own programming, triggered the emergence of abilities latent in all robots of a sufficiently advanced design? Avery thoughtfully rubbed his chin. Explain. There's no precedent for Robot City. There's never been another society of robots without humans. Different things are already happening before Ariel and I got here. Things that's never even been imagined before. What kind of things? Avery was studiously blasé. I'm sure you saw them from your office in the Compass Tower, Derek said. He was rewarded with a raised eyebrow from Dr. Avery. Oh, yes, we've been up there. I've also been to the Central Core, and I've talked to the chief supervisors. Your robots decided to study humanity in order to serve it better. Robots don't usually do that. They even tried to formulate laws of humanics to try to understand us. I've never heard of robots doing that before. And I suppose you have a theory as to why this is happening? A couple. Derek started to count the points off on his fingers, but it didn't work in his position. First, the stress of the replication crisis. It was a survival crisis comparable to the ice ages of prehistoric Earth. The robots were forced to adapt or perish. My interference helped end the crisis, but we also helped shape the adaptation. Second, the actual isolation of Robot City. Without any humans around, evolutionary steps that would have been halted were allowed to continue. The study of the law of humanics, for one example. Robots getting accustomed to taking initiative for another. These changes not only survived, they flourished. They've become part of the ingrained posteronic pathways of the robots here. Even in the primitive early microchips went into something like a dream state when they weren't in use. Now we're seeing what happens when we don't wake them up forcibly. These things you're telling me don't prove a thing. The theories, nothing more. They certainly don't constitute empirical proof. Avery stifled a yawn. Oh, I'm boring you, am I? Excuse me, no, you're not boring me at all. You're actually quite interesting for a young man. Your charming ideas about robots and reality positively reek of your inexperience. That's to be expected, though, I suppose. Again he patted the bar across Derek's feet. Derek scowled. One thing was certain. He could deal with Avery's mental instability. He could tolerate the man's arrogance, but the man's condescending tenderness nauseated him to the core of his being. And not for any reason that Derek could discern. That was just the way it was. He couldn't help but wonder if he'd ever done anything with Avery at some time during his dim, unremembered past. So, what information did you get out of me? Avery laughed. Why should I tell you? Because I've nothing to hide. Only you're insisting that I should be hiding things. You don't ask my robots questions, you incapacitate him. You don't ask the other robots questions, you ignore them. You ask me questions, but you only half believe my answers. You treat my friends like they were. They were mere inconveniences. I'm afraid that's exactly what they are, said Avery, not unkindly. But I thought you created this place to learn more about the kind of social structures robots would create on their own. Perhaps I did, perhaps not. I see no reason why I should trust you with my motivations. But aren't you interested in our observations? No. Not even those of Ariel Welsh, the daughter of your financial backer? No. Avery glanced in Ariel's direction. Parents and their children are rarely close on Aurora. You've heard of her, but you don't want to help her. Aren't you concerned in the least for her? She is now an outsider in the eyes of Spacer society, and hence is basically an inconsequential individual. I suppose in an earlier, more idealistic time I would have sacrificed some of my time and resources to assist her, but time has recently become a precious commodity to me, too precious to waste it on a single human life out of billions and billions. My experiments are at a sensitive stage, anyway. I can't afford to trust any of you." "It's yourself that you don't trust," said Derek. Avery smiled. "And just how did you, who know so much about robots but so little about men, manage to figure that out?" Derek sighed. "It's just a feeling, that's all." "I see." Avery turned toward Kennedy and signaled the ebony with his finger. In a moment both Avery and Kennedy were leaning over the prone Derek. Already Derek could perceive there was something different in Kennedy's demeanor, something missing. The old polite arrogance and self-confidence were gone, replaced or suppressed with a subservient manner that might have been willing, or might have been only what Avery expected of him. "Are you well, Master Derek?" asked Kennedy in even tones. "As well as can be expected. You're strong, Kennedy. Why don't you pull off my bonds?" "I fear that, while I might be able to succeed should I make the attempt, it is otherwise impossible," replied the robot. "Why, Master Derek, I expected better of you," said Avery. "So long as you are not harmed, Kennedy has no choice but to follow my orders. They take precedence over any you might conceive." "I was just checking," said Derek. "But how do you know that lying here isn't causing me grave harm?" Avery appeared shocked, but Kennedy answered before he could. "I do not. I simply must take Dr. Avery's word that no injury will come to you as a result of your restraint." "How does it feel to be a robot, Kennedy?" "That question is meaningless!" exclaimed Avery with a derivative snort. "He has nothing to make a comparison to." Kennedy turned toward Avery. A familiar glow was returning to his visual receptors. "Forgive me, Dr. Avery, but I must beg to differ with you. I do have something to compare the sensation of being a robot to, because after having spent the past few weeks attempting to imitate the actions of a fictional human being, I have some notion, however vague, of what it might be like to be that human being. From that base I may extrapolate what it might be like to be the genuine article." "I see," said Avery, nodding in a manner that indicated he believed none of this, and that he wouldn't be taking it too seriously if he did. He glanced at Derek. "Who's grasping at neutrons now, young man?" "What else can I do while I'm stuck here?" Avery smiled. Derek was beginning to dislike that smile intensely. "I can't fight logic like that," said the doctor, stifling a yawn. "Master Dr. Avery, are you verging upon the state of exhaustion?" Kennedy asked. "Why, yes, I am. I've been awake for some time now. In fact, since I've left no, I won't say. There's no reason for any of you to know." "Might I suggest you take refuge in sleep? It may be quite harmful for you to remain awake long past your body's stamina quotient." Another yawn. "That's a good idea." A third yawn. "You'd like me to leave, wouldn't you?" "Only because of your halitosis." "Ha ha! You seek to hide your true designs behind a mask of frivolity. No matter, shall take up Kennedy's suggestion. I'll decide what to do with you four after I awake." He took a step to leave, then turned to Kennedy. "Under no circumstances are you to touch the bars restraining our friend Derek unless I am physically present in this room. Understand? That is a direct order." "What if I have to go to the bathroom?" said Derek. "You won't. We've already taken care of your elimination needs." "What did they do?" thought Derek. "Dehydrate my bladder? This guy's a bigger genius than I figured." "Sir, there is the possibility that other forms of physical harm may come to Master Derek and the others if they remain bound too long." "They're young, they're strong. They should be able to handle it." Kennedy bowed his head. "Yes, Master Dr. Avery." And Avery left. Suddenly Derek felt his heart pounding excitedly, and he struggled to calm down. The next conversational tack he took had to appear casual, otherwise the crafty Kennedy, who after all would regard obeying the orders from Dr. Avery as the most important guide to its words and deeds, would see through Derek's plan. Derek hoped it was a clever plan. He waited several minutes while Kennedy continued about its tasks, and when he believed enough time had elapsed for Avery to have gone on to his sleeping quarters, he said, "Kennedy, I'd like to speak with you." "That would be quite acceptable, Master Derek, but I must warn you in advance that I'll be on the lookout for any clever ploys on your part to talk me into releasing you." "Don't worry, Kennedy. I know when to quit. Forgive me, but while you may believe that statement to be true, the reality lies elsewhere. I'll take that as a compliment. Neither flattery nor insult was intended. Can I speak to you while I'm waiting for Avery or my friends to wake up? Certainly, if it pleases you. However, I trust our impending conversation will have nothing to do with your belief that I was responsible for the demise of Lucius. Derek smiled. Certainly, if you prefer. But what difference would it make to you? None, really. Only that for some reason I find the subject causes my thoughts to drag, as if it somehow bogs down my circuit's posteron flow. Interesting. But never fear. I thought I would find proof and did not, so I don't have to worry about it. Besides, it would seem I would have more pressing matters on my mind than Lucius anyway. Yes, so it would seem, said Canate. Yes, well, it seems that while Dr. Avery was perusing my mind, I had a curious dream. It gave me a lot to think about. Master Derek, do you think I am the proper entity with whom to discuss such matters? Human dreams are hardly my forte. That's all right. I'm certain the field is not mine either, but my dreams gave me a lot of questions, and I'd like to see how an entity possessing of your own special strain of logic responds to them. Certainly, I fail to see how any harm could result from an attempt, however feeble, to put your mind at ease on these matters. Yes, it may even do me some good. I shall endeavor to help you achieve that result. Well, Canate, you know that life began in the stew of Earth's oceans as a series of chemical reactions. The raw materials for life were present on other worlds as well, but until recently there was no evidence that the stew had worked on any other worlds. Are you referring to Woolruff and the master who once employed her as an unwilling servant? Yes. 2 examples from 2 alien cultures, 2 other worlds where the stew came to fruition, and they're not even native to this galaxy. But the comparatively scarce number of worlds where life has originated really isn't the point, though I hope it amplifies it. What is the point? That although the universe itself isn't a conscious entity, it possesses raw materials that, when properly set in motion, create consciousness. It has the ability to create intelligent life, which is capable of understanding the universe. So while it cannot know itself directly, exactly, Canate, it can know itself indirectly. Now, how do you think it does that? Through science. That is one way, and we'll get back to that. The universe can also examine itself through religion, philosophy, or history. The universe can also understand itself, interpret itself, through the arts. Viewed in this light, Shakespeare's plays are the expression not only of a man, or of the race that has interpreted him throughout the ages, but that of the universe itself, the very stuff stars have been made of. Derek waited to see what kind of reaction his words would foster, but Canate said nothing. Canate? Forgive me, Master Derek, but I fear I must terminate my part in this conversation. Something is happening to the flow of my thoughts. They are becoming sluggish, and I believe the sensation permeating my circuits is vaguely analogous to what you would call nausea. Stay, Canate, that's a direct order. When we're through, I think you'll see that it'll be worthwhile. I shall do as you order because I must, but you must forgive me again if I state that I seriously doubt you are correct that it'll be worthwhile. But humans and aliens have also learned to comprehend the universe through science. The mastery of logic, of experimental trial and error, has permeated humanity to expand its boundaries of knowledge and perception in every conceivable respect. Mankind's knowledge has grown not only in his mastery of the facts and the possibility of what he may accomplish, but in how he can express the concepts of his knowledge and perception as well. One avenue of that expression has been in the development of Posteronic Intelligence. However, and this is a pretty big however in my opinion, Canate, so pay attention. If you so order, I do. Man is only an expression of the possibilities inherent in the universe, and so are the things he makes in events. This holds true for artificial intelligence as well. In fact, for all we know, mankind may only be a preliminary stage in the evolution of intelligence. Eons from now, some metallic philosopher may look back on the rubble of our current civilizations and say, The purpose of humans was to invent robots, and it has been the artifacts created by robots that are the highest order of the universe's efforts to know itself." "You mean circuit breaker," said Canate with a strange, crackling noise. "I mean circuit breaker may have just been a beginning. I mean that, the three laws of robotics and whatever laws of humanics there may be notwithstanding, there may be higher laws beyond our comprehension that rules as surely as the laws of molecular interaction rule on our bodies." "Then you are saying that it may be entirely proper for a robot to take upon himself the burden of creating a work of art, regardless of the disorderly effects such an action may have on society as a whole?" "Exactly. You had no problem creating a new globe or acting the part of Claudius because you were ordered to do so, but you could not accept Lucius's attempt to create of his own free will, because you believed it was an aberration of the Posteronic rule in the ethical structure of the universe. I'm suggesting to you that you cannot say that with 100% certainty. In fact, unless you can find a flaw in my reasoning, I'm saying that precisely the opposite of what you believed is true." "Then it is also true I have committed harm against a comrade for no good reason." "There can be no crime when there is no law against it, and not even the three laws cover the damage a robot might do to another. It's only your innate sense of morality, a morality that I might add you've done your best to deny to yourself, that makes you regret having killed Lucius in the first place." Canate bowed its head as if in shame. "Yes, I confess I murdered Lucius. I met him when he was alone and took him by surprise, disrupting him with the gamma radiation, and removed his logic circuits. Then, acting upon the eventuality that my methods might be detected, I smashed his head several times against a building. Then I carried him to the lake and threw him in, thinking no one would find him before several standard years had passed." The robot walked away from Derek, and faced the computer against the distant wall. "By disrupting Lucius I was committing the same crime of which I had accused him. He was merely acquiescing to the hidden order of the universe, while I was the one who was denying it. I do not function properly. I must have myself dismantled at the earliest opportunity, and my parts must be melted down into slag. You must do no such thing. I admit it, at first I thought you were evil, Canate, but robots are neither good nor evil. They merely are, and you must continue to be. You have learned your lesson, and now you must teach it to others, so the same mistake will not be repeated." "But Dr. Avery is suspicious of permitting the arts to flourish in Robot City." "Dr. Avery is wrong." "But how can we stop him from changing us? We must obey his orders. He can have us erase all memory of you and Circuit Breaker in the performance of the play if he desires, and then all will be like it was before. He can order you to forget, but it will not matter, because you have been changed, and you or someone else will create again, and then the cycle will begin anew. I must think about these things. They do not easily compute. I didn't think they would, but I don't expect them ever to compute easily. It simply isn't in the nature of the questions." "This is all very illuminating," said Ariel sarcastically from her slab, "but none of it is helping us to get out of this mess." "Ariel!" exclaimed Derek. "How long have you been awake?" "For some time, Derek. I knew you could talk, but I didn't think you had the strength to keep it going for that long a stretch." "Very funny." "Canate, I think the time has come for you to release us," said Ariel. "This one concurs," said Woolruff. "I would naturally obey you instantly, but my orders from Dr. Avery take precedence," said Canate. "He is my creator, and I'm programmed to regard him as such." "Canate, listen to me," said Ariel. "The first law states that no robot shall, through inaction, permit a human being to come to harm, correct?" "Yes, it is so." "Dr. Avery knows my disease is driving me insane, and is causing me great physical harm besides, yet he shows no sign of acting to help me. He is only interested in forcing things from our minds that he could easily learn himself. In fact, I believe that if you examine his behavior, you will perceive that he is mentally unstable, that he has changed from the man who initially programmed you." "That may very well be true," said Canate, "but humans often change over time. Such change is not always a sign of mental incompetence. As Dirk has demonstrated, even I have changed in recent weeks, but my diagnostic subroutines indicate that I'm still working at maximum efficiency. Dr. Avery does not appear to be concerned for your welfare, but he has nothing to harm you. He may even be unable to find a cure for your condition that is otherwise unknown. I'm reliably informed that he's a genius. He harms me by not helping me or allowing me to seek help elsewhere. If you're a robot, he'd be violating the first law. Canate stepped to the foot of the table where Ariel was confined and placed one steel hand on the bar across her feet. But he is not a robot. If our studies of the laws of humanics have taught us anything, it is that humans are not subject to the laws of robotics. You are not in immediate danger. I cannot help you. It's very simple, Ariel said. The longer I stay on Robot City, the more insane I become. The longer Derek stays, the longer he lives out knowledge of who he is. A state that I think you'll agree is also causing him some anguish. Anguish is harm, too. Canote's hand raised from the bar, then slowed to a stop in midair. I think I agree. But Dr. Avery is my creator. He has instructed me that you are not in danger. I cannot supersede his judgment of my own. But if Dr. Avery does not have our well-being at heart, who does? Who is responsible? I believe it's you, the robot he left in charge. That's brilliant, thought Derek. I knew there was some reason why I liked this girl. She's right, Canate. The same morality that troubled you for what you did to Lucius will trouble you if you allow Dr. Avery to harm us through inaction. You cannot say with any certainty that we'll get the medical attention we need. Canate's slow turn toward Derek showed the posteronic conflict he was experiencing. Derek pursued his point. If the robots of Robot City are allowed to continue creating, they will be able to serve humanity better. But Dr. Avery will stop this process. His orders are not mentally incompetent, but they are morally incompetent. Are you still bound to obey them? The robot's turn slowed to immobility. This was the crisis, Derek knew, where Canate would decide for or against them, or slip into posteronic drift. Canate said nothing for several seconds. Then, "But, Master Derek, how can I say with any certainty that the two of you will have proper attention while you're in space? Is it not likely that you'll suffer while alone on your way to your destination?" "The answer to that question is simple," said Derek, forcing his voice to remain calm and reasonable. "That's where Roloff and Mandelbrot come in. They'll take care of us between the stars." This time Canate did not speak or move for several minutes. It was all Derek could do to stop himself from adding something more to convince the robot to do what he wanted, but he was too afraid that the information already provided had confused the robot's integrals to a dangerous degree. "I have been thinking," Canate finally said, "of Dr. Avery's exact words. He said I should not touch the bars restraining our friend Derek, but he said nothing about the bars restraining our friends Ariel and Woolruff. That's the spirit," Derek thought with a grin. Wordlessly, Canate walked to the edge of Ariel's slab, grabbed the bar across her feet, and, utilizing all his strength, pulled it away. Alright, that is the end of chapter 12. Soon, the last part, chapter 13, will be out. I hope you will enjoy. And then after that, I'm going to take a week break. And the week after that, we'll come back to book 5, Refuge. See ya soon.